Hello to the Reset with Raven family. I am your host, Raven M. Harris, and I am grateful that you are here and we get to spend this time together. Here we discuss how to recover and reset after disappointment, dissatisfaction, and devastation. Today's guest is someone I immediately connected to from her spirit of warmth, grace, and just realness. Let me preface this story that life can come at you hard and literally can put you on like an emotional roller coaster. This is a conversation of triumph, poise, and resilience after experiencing depression, loneliness, and heartache. Please join me in welcoming Tiyauna.
Hi, Raven. Welcome. Thank you. Why am I saying welcome? But thank you for having the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. When we first met, you told me something that I wrote down. You said everything that could have went wrong. So set the stage for us and tell us what was going on in your life when you experienced that, when you thought that, and what went wrong.
All right. Well, in 2019, December 17, 2019, actually, I had weight loss surgery. And I had a lot of complications just from the beginning. The day of the surgery, in my spirit, I was feeling like God was telling me not to have the surgery, but I went ahead and did it anyway because I felt like I had invested so much time, money into the procedure. So I went ahead and did it. Starting with difficulties with the anesthesiology aspect of the surgery. Um, I came through fine after that. But then the day that I was going to be released, I started having severe stomach pains, unlike anything I've ever experienced in my life. Now, I have a daughter, and it was worse than labor pains. And they readmitted me back to the hospital that same day. Come to find out, I had a blood clot in my lower intestine. And like I told you, anything that could have went wrong as far as my health with the double surgeries that I had after it went wrong. The blood clot caused most of my lower intestine to die. I was in ICU for a long time. I was in a coma for I think a week and a half, almost 2 weeks, because of difficulties again with the surgery, and it was just a trying experience. When I finally came home, it was about February 2020. This was right before COVID hit, and in my mind, I thought, okay, you know what, I got over the hump. I'm able to, at least eat a little bit of food. I'm able to be stable and all of these things. So I just thought it was going to be an uphill battle from that, but it went downhill again. I was readmitted to the hospital during 2020 at least 11 different times. I was unable to eat. I was on what's called a TPN bag, which is basically a solution that you put into an IV, and they feed you intravenously, just your nutrients and things of that nature. But I had to do it at home, so I needed assistance from my family. My parents, of course, lived in Maryland and Boston at the time, so they would alternate and come down and assist me because I wasn't able to do things on my own. All during this time, you got to keep in mind I had a 13-year-old daughter there witnessing this and helping me. I lost a lot of function in my body. Of course, I wasn't able to eat. I lost a ton of weight. I was unable to bathe myself. I needed assistance to go to the restroom. Just anything basic that you do as a healthy person, I needed help with. Then I lost function in my legs and my arms, and I was unable to walk. I was in a wheelchair for about 11 months, and I had to learn to walk again from the beginning, like literally learn to walk, not just stand up, but learn to walk. And it was a really trying, unique experience. I learned so much about myself. I learned so much about boundaries, my relationships with other people. But most importantly, I learned that when God tells you not to do something, don't do it because He knows why He's telling you not to do it. And be okay with whatever people might say if you decide in the middle of a situation, I don't want to do this. And it was a very trying situation. It was, to say the least, it was difficult. It was difficult. It was a very difficult emotionally, financially, spiritually. I lost my home, my car. I was unable to walk, on top of other things. But I thank God that, I was able to pull from him and got myself back on track.
Wow. Just just wow. That's what comes to my mind when I think of everything that you have been through, and still able to speak about all of this gracefully. Have you experienced anger from any of this?
Oh yeah, definitely. I spent 2020 angry, to be honest with you. And this is just a little piece of my story, but I was engaged when I went into the surgery in 2019, and when I came out of my coma and was able to get up on my feet, not physically, but to you know figure out what was going on, because we got to remember it was such a traumatic experience. I think I kind of checked out mentally. I was there, but I wasn't there. But when I finally came home, like I said, in about February, I found out that my then fiance had married somebody else. So I had to deal with the emotional aspect from that, the fact that I was no longer able to walk. I couldn't take care of myself, and I lost everything. So I was angry. I was angry at everybody else but me.
Mm.
Initially, I pointed blame. I said they should have done this, they should have did that, and I shouldn't have. I cast a lot of blame, and I was angry at God too. I was very angry, and that was a very dark place to be in. But that's where I was for most of 2020.
I want to definitely make sure we circle back to being angry at God, and how do you like channel those feelings when you're like, huh, like, did you fail me? Like, God, how did you allow, or your permissive will? Like, why me? Right?
Yeah.
I want to make sure to hold that thought. There was something you said too about I had invested so much into this. Talk to us about kind of your thought process of what kind of gave you the green light, or made you go forward with the surgery, knowing the potential complications. And you said, in my spirit, God told me not to. What in you was like, I don't want to hear that, or I'm already too far along. I'm already invested in it. What kind of walk us through kind of like that thought process, in terms of having a surgery like that, and also too, you know, depending on health and that type of thing, you may hear people say, well, those type of surgeries are elective surgeries.
Yeah.
So talk to us about kind of where you were emotionally, mentally, physically. What made you feel like I have to go through with this?
Yeah, the day of the surgery, I definitely felt like I had to, because I invested so much. And anybody that's had this surgery, especially if you go through insurance like I did, I know that the experience is different for somebody paying out of pocket. But with my insurance, there were excuse me, there were certain things I had to check off this long checklist. I had to go to a cardiologist. I had to go to a sleep doctor to make sure I didn't have sleep apnea, or if I did, I had to go to a therapist. I mean, psychologist. And there was so many different facets of it. And you got to think, I chose to go to a doctor that was an hour and a half away from me, because my original doctor, my primary care doctor, turned me down and denied me the surgery. So I went outside of what I thought was that bracket of providers, and I went somewhere else. So I'm traveling back and forth. I'm paying doctor, office visit, things of that nature. And it was so much time. It took me about, I want to say, 6 months to get everything done, between doctor's visits, and losing a little bit of weight initially before the surgery and things of that nature. The reason why I had the surgery at the time was because I was about 315 pounds, and I didn't feel good about myself. Um, I always felt different in my family. Nobody in my family made me feel bad about the way I looked or my weight. That never was an issue. But I was always different. I was the bigger one. I was the plus size one, the only plus size one in my family. And, also two couple was what you see on social media, I just felt like I didn't fit in. And I felt like at that time as well in my career, if I was smaller, I would have more opportunities. I would have, a better pool. I could date a better pool of men. I would be more attractive. Life would just be perfect. I'd be on the beach, running down the beach with a flat stomach and just, big old butt, just having a grand life. I would travel more. I would be happier. And so that's why I had the surgery and, hoping for a better life and just being wanting to be accepted. At the time, I didn't look at it like that. But now I know I just wanted to be accepted. I wanted to know that I was valuable, that I was pretty, that I was fine the way that I was. Now that I'm just smaller, we just love you more. And so I was seeking that acceptance, from other people. And the day of the surgery, like I said, even leading up to the surgery, I got to be honest, I knew I wasn't supposed to have it for a couple of different reasons. I didn't need it as far as health concerns. Some people need to have the surgery because there are health conditions that will help surgery for them, will help them with the surgery, or that the surgery will help them with. I didn't have any of that. I didn't have diabetes. I didn't have high blood pressure. I didn't have anything going on with my heart. I just was overweight, and my primary care doctor told me that. She said it's not necessary for you to have this. You just have to put in the work to lose the weight. Well, I didn't want to hear that. So
Mm.
I went ahead and did, what I wanted to do. She refused to approve me for it. She refused to. And I went up, over her and I went with somebody else because that's what I thought. She didn't understand that life would be so much better for me if I was smaller. So,
You mentioned too that through this process you learned a lot about yourself. It sounds like one of the things is that seeking acceptance. Some may use the term validation.
yes.
Is there something else that you learned about yourself, or what were those things that you learned
Yes.
about like yourself?
Seeking this acceptance was the biggest thing. And being validated were two of the biggest things. But also too, I realized I was super selfish. And another thing that was a big wide eye opener for me that God revealed to me was I led with my job. I led with my career. I led with the type of money that I was making. In the career that I was in, I was young. I probably was one younger than, no, I was the youngest African American woman at my job doing what I was doing. I was good at my job. I got a lot of praise at my job. People would, seek me out. And so that kind of puffed me up. And, I just was it. I was just it. But when it came to being promoted or going to other places, I was overlooked. And I felt like I was overlooked because I was the chubby one. I was not the black girl that was, that you see in the books, thin, curvy, and things of that nature. And I didn't fit that mold. And I learned that I had some really deep rooted issues with being validated. And I felt like the money that I made and the job that I worked in my career wasn't, made me a better person. And I wasn't so kind. I was very selfish. I was very pompous. The people that worked for me, I wasn't always the best leader as far as talking to them and, being nice. I don't want to say just being nice, but I just wasn't a kind, caring person in certain situations, and a lot of things that I went through, I have talked about or made fun about with people in the past. Like, for example, um, I used to work a part-time job. This was years ago, 10, 15 years ago, and at a grocery store. And, I would kind of get irritated with the people that would come in that had WIC, which are little checks that you can get certain things on milk, cereal, and bread, and it was certain amounts. And I would just kind of laugh at them and talk about them. Well, turn around, I was on public assistance. I needed, food benefits. I was on SNAP. Then I would, make fun of people who were on disability. You just don't want to work because you just say you just don't want to work. And I'm on disability. You understand? So a lot of things that I made fun about or talked about people became my truth. And so that really redirected my attitude and made me take a look back and say, you know what, you need to stop doing that. Stop talking down to people and looking down on people.
It's amazing how life can be so humbling.
Yes.
Um, I used to work at a hospital, and as you were talking, it really made me think of that situation where we had a patient,
Hmm.
and the patient was a surgeon, and the surgeon was in a car accident.
Mm.
And when she was in that bed, she wasn't able to do anything for herself.
Yeah.
And she wanted pain meds. She wanted comfort. I remember she said she would like for the nurses to come in and talk with her more and interact with her. She mentioned that the doctors didn't round frequently enough, all those type of things. But let me tell you the thing that stood out to me. I will never forget this. She
Mm.
was a top surgeon in the area, and she said, now that the tables are turned and I'm in the bed, I realize how I was not a kind
Yeah.
doctor,
Yeah.
that I did not show my patients compassion.
Yeah.
And I just remember like her saying that, and it stood out to me. And because of her injuries, multiple people, even her attending physician at the time, told her, it's highly unlikely that you will ever, operate again. And it
Yeah.
just was very interesting for her to like say that. It's one thing for her to think it, but for her to verbalize that to the team, it really stood out to me about how we look at things just from, I guess, one view or one lens or one vantage point until, some situations are reversed. So I think that's
Absolutely. Yeah.
very interesting that you said, like, hey, once I was in this position, things changed. I also want to know too now, now that you're post surgery, all of the things in terms of acceptance, in terms of how people see you, has your viewpoint on those things changed? Because now the weight is gone, but how have things changed, or have they changed?
Yeah, things have changed a lot. I have during the recovery process, like I said, I lost my house. I had to go back. Now keep in mind at the time I probably was 37. I'm 39 now, maybe 36. And I had to go back and live with my parents at 30 some years old with a child. So that experience was unique. And what happened was I was 315 when I first started the surgery process. And after I had the surgery, I was about probably 130, which was not how it was supposed to be. That is not normal to the listeners out there. That's definitely not normal as far as weight loss. And I felt like I looked like a skeleton, and I found myself preparing to come back to Georgia. I was in Boston, then I went to Maryland, then I came back home to Georgia, and I was so afraid to go outside because I'm like, what if somebody sees me? What if one of my old coworkers I run into and they're gonna look at me? They're gonna think I look like this, they're gonna think I look like that. And I just said, you know what? Forget it. I'm not going to go back to just focusing on what people think of me. I'm going to have to love Tiyauna right where Tiyauna was. And if Tiyauna was 130 pounds, and Tiyauna had to learn how to love Tiyauna at that point, and that's what I had to do. And that was, a process to sit here and tell you, yeah, that was great. I just did it. No, it's even a process now. I picked up some weight now, and I don't want to make this about the weight. I've definitely picked up some weight since I first got out the hospital, and I'm thankful for that because at one point I couldn't eat, so I'm thankful to God for that. But even now, Raven, being smaller, I have a lot of insecurities now, being truthful. There are things about my body that I don't like. There are things about my body that I'm not comfortable with. I am still learning my body. My body responds to things differently. It's not like it used to be. And I've had to learn how to embrace that and say, you know what? This is where I am. This is what's happening. And I'm going to have to love Tiyauna right where I am. And that's a day to day thing. That's not something that I can just say, oh, yeah, I just got it. Everything's perfect. No, it's a day to day thing. Some days are good and some days are better. But um, I've had to, the fine line here is I've had to, one, tell God how I felt, be honest about it, and learn to love myself where I am. If if you don't like me because I wear glasses, then that's on you. You've lost a great friend to have, and that's fine. And I've had to learn to be okay with that, because that's just how people are. But I have to get up each morning and say, girl, we got this. We're gonna do this today. This body gonna go here, and this body gonna put these clothes on, and we're gonna be what, we're gonna do what we gotta do. And it's an ongoing process. I don't think it's gonna ever, I don't think personally anybody, even if you've had, surgeries, if you had, augmentation, whatever it may be, I don't think anybody goes through life just thinking they're everything is just perfect. They just don't need to fix anything. And if they do, more props to them, but that's probably not true, because we're always seeking to be better. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but be better for yourself, look better for yourself, lose weight for yourself. And that's been an ongoing process for me. And it's been hard. It's been hard, but I love me. I'm okay with me. When people make jokes, my friends and stuff make jokes about my weight or my size. Now they, like my mom the other day, she meant this in true love. She was like, okay, girl, you picking up a little weight. The old me would have been hurt. The old me would have been devastated, because she said that. But because my mom knew where I came from, knew that I couldn't eat, knew when I was just kind of boned, she saw where I came from. I knew she said it in love, and I didn't take it personal, because because now I have people around me that love me just for me, whether I'm skinny, fat, tall, purple, or whatever. And so, but before that would have been devastating. But now I'm learning to be happy with me. It's ongoing. It's definitely ongoing.
You
But
know,
oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say that, we use the term self love, and it's kind of been used to the point where it's almost like cliche. But when
It is.
you were like, I love myself, I love Tiyauna, like I felt that. And it made me think about, like, when we go through like transitions in life, whether it be health, relationships,
Yeah.
the only person we're still left with is ourselves.
True.
And if you can't love you, how do you move forward? I want to know, in this period of time, from the decision to have the surgery until today, what are you anchored in? What keeps you going? Especially, you know, I really want our listeners and our viewers to. I mean, you told it so succinctly, but it sounds like you literally went through hell.
Yeah.
Uh, for at minimum over 2 years in this recovery process, from losing your home, from losing your fiance, from all of these health complications. I want to know, like, what kept you going? Like, when you feel like you're at your rock bottom, when you just feel like I don't even know, like, what's left.
Yeah.
What kept you going? Because I love hearing, like, the self-love where we are now, but I want to talk about that in between, because a
Yeah.
lot of us have been in that in between, and like feel like kind of letting go of that grip. So
Absolutely.
what kept you, even if it's a weak grip, what kept you hanging on?
Yeah. Twofold, and being just transparent, from the date of the surgery up until 2021, maybe the first week in 2021, I didn't have anything to be anchored in, because I was angry with God. And I'm going to be honest, looking back on it, I don't know how I made it through. I don't, except for God keeping me, I don't know how I made it through, because I was just an angry little lady, just mad and angry. But then I had a conversation with my aunt, and this is not a conversation that I hadn't had with many people before. But at the end of 2020, my aunt said, okay, you've gone through this process, you've cried, you hurt, and everything that you feel is valid, but you got to get up. You got to get up. You can't stay in this wheelchair for the rest of your life. And I'm like, I'm in a wheelchair. How do I? And she said, you can't, this is not the end. This is the beginning for you. God is writing a story for you. This is going to help other people. You know, at the time, you don't want to hear that. You're like, okay, God, well, if that's the case, then snap your fingers and let everything go back to where it was. And so with that conversation, what started to anchor me was my relationship with God. I've always been in the church. As a matter of fact, I led my whole family to God when I was 5 years old. That's a whole nother show, another story. I'll tell you about that later. But I lived vicariously through my mom and my dad because they're in the church. And so when I had an issue, I just would go to them, they would pray, and things would work out. But this situation, I got to see God for myself because I had a wonderful team of doctors, nurses, therapists, all of that. I had a great team, Raven, that stuck by me from Georgia to Boston to Maryland. Just a wonderful team of doctors that worked together, even though they were out of state, to get me the best care. But had God not orchestrated that, I wouldn't have had it. And so I realized, okay, God, you keeping me. You're the only thing to keep me. When I was in that coma, I knew that God was there keeping me. I wasn't afraid. I knew that God was keeping me. And I remember in the coma saying, God, if you just help me get through, I'm going to, change and be a better person. And so, long story short, what's anchored me throughout this process is my relationship with God and learning that I could tell him what it is. I don't have to go crying, snotting, doing all of that stuff. I can just tell him, look, God, this don't feel good. Okay. Today, my head hurt, my body hurt. I'm not in the mood for this. And I just really want to come home and be with the Lord, to be with you, and just being honest. And so as I begin to build and tell him the truth in that relationship, that's what anchored me. That's what keeps me now, because I'm almost like a walking, not to toot, and I'm not tooting my horn, but I'm definitely a walking miracle because I shouldn't be here. And I know that for a fact. Based on my medical records, if you want to per se, I'm not supposed to be here. I shouldn't have survived with all of the different things that happen. And so I know that he's keeping me here for a reason. So that's what anchors me, knowing that, okay, you made a mistake, Tiyauna. You didn't do what I told you to do. But even in that, I'm going to bring everything full circle because I love you and because you still have a story to tell. And that's what's been keeping me.
That's good. I said we were going to recircle back to that being angry with God. It's interesting. It's like you can be angry with God and still ask him,
Yes.
plead to him, hey, I need you. And I think it's so interesting too that it's like, as the Bible says, like every knee will bow.
Yes.
Even though you're angry, like I know I'm in right now. It's only you. It's only you that can see me through. Because I tried to do it on my, the way I wanted to do it.
I messed it up. Yeah.
I ignored you already when you gave me sign after sign after sign, and
Yes.
guess what? You still come through. You still come through
Still.
because I have more work left to do.
Right.
So I want to know, like, what do you want people to feel? What do you want people to hear? What do you want people to just do differently with their lives? What's your testimony component of your story, your life, and you're living it out still? Like, what do you want people to get out of that?
A couple of things. I want people to know that even in making a mistake, even in not going the route that God wants you to do, he still loves you. And it might take you, because you stepped outside of his will, it might take you 2 years instead of taking you 2 months like it was intended. But whatever God has for your life, it's going to happen. Now, he's not going to force you, but it's going to happen either way, as long as you allow him to come in and make those changes. Also, too, I want people to know that life is not linear. We have ideas about who we want to be, where we want to work, what type of life we want to live. And sometimes it does not happen that way. For some people, it does. And I'm proud of them. Thank God. That ain't my ministry. Every time I have wanted something, I have had to be tried and true in it. Okay. And that's fine, because God, it's in me to do it. But be open to the fact that God, if you want to, let's decide, buy a house in Kansas, and you say, I'm just going to get this money and buy a house, and something happens and it looks like it's pulling you in a different direction, be okay with it. You just never know how God will bring it back full circle. I have always wanted to be a community activist, someone active in my community. I have always wanted to share and talk with people and always make people laugh. I enjoy making people feel better about themselves, and I just enjoy talking. So I've always kind of wanted to be someone in the community to talk, do something. And God has given me that opportunity through this experience to be able to do that, to share his word with other people. And not share it in the sense of, I just have to, but share it in the sense of, listen, sis, I went through this. I know what it's like being angry. I know what it's like to lose everything. And I know what it's like to wake up some days and you want to die. And I know what it's like going to sleep, hoping that you don't wake up. And that's my truth, my reality. But let me tell you, what kept me from going that route. Let me tell you what comforted me when I thought my dreams and hopes were just obsolete. God forgot about me, but he turned it around in a different way. And I'm able to do that only because based on my experiences. I want people to know that God loves you. Life is not linear, and don't feel like because you might have to go to the left, it's not going to happen. There's some things that he has to fine tune in us all as individuals before he can give us more. I watched a video the other day of, I think his name was Bishop Monroe or Pastor Monroe. I know that he passed away in an aircraft incident years ago. But
Dr. Miles Monroe.
yeah,
Yes, I love his stuff. Yes, God.
told me about him all the time, but I'm like, that's old school. I'm not watching it. But for some reason, it came up in my YouTube thread because I was looking for something. And what he said is, when we pray for things, God gives us what we can manage at that time. It does not mean that it's never going to happen, but he can only give you 3 apples if you can only manage 3 apples at that time. It's not to say that he won't give you the 10 that you want, but you have to be willing to grow in that and to learn and to be fine-tuned in some areas and be okay with it's going to come when it's going to come, and be okay with hey, I asked God for 3 apples but he gave me 10 because he knows that you can handle it. I did an interview with somebody a couple of weeks ago, and it's just stuck with me. He said that anything that God gives us or happens to us is because he's already put the tools in us. So if you're going through something, I don't care if it's financial, if it's health, if it's mentally, remember that God is not going to put more on you than you can bear. And if he's giving you something, then there's the tools are already in you. You just have to be willing to let them out, let them God use you. So that's important. And the other thing is, love you where you are. If you got short hair, and it's curly as I don't know what, and you want to put braids and you can't get braids, be okay with it. If you got long hair and you can't hold a curl, be okay with it. If you're dark skinned, be okay with it. You got big hips and can't fit certain jeans, go find some jeans at another store. It's okay. It's okay for you to be who you are and love who you are right where you are. I am not a person that tells people to not have elective surgeries. That's not what I'm here for. What I am here for is to share my experience. I don't have a problem with you changing something if that's really what you want to do, but make sure you're doing it for you and not for other people. So that's what I would share. I know that was a lot, but that's what
You took us to church.
yeah.
As we're recording it, everyone, this is on a Sunday, so she's giving us some Super Soul Sunday.
Right.
Sister Tiyauna, absolutely. My mentor, I'm sure she'll be snapping her fingers at this component or this part of our conversation, because she always says you don't get to pick your assignment.
You don't.
And things come in a different way than you expected. And as you just said, you have to be okay with that. Has been the hardest thing for me as of late, because I'll write down here's how I envision it, here's what it looks like. And I've had to have people, her included, point out to me, it did come. It just didn't come the way you saw it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's so true. I mean, I'm just a living testament of that, for sure, for sure.
So good, so good. Well, I have to have you back because I want to hear how you brought your whole family to Christ. So we to be continued,
Yeah,
everyone. We
girl.
will definitely have Miss Tiyauna White back on because I want to hear that story. And also too, I want to hear for those listening know that the umbrella company where Reset with Raven lies under is called Activate the Dream. So I love that Tiyauna shared that she's always wanted to be a community activist because I'm all about activating your dreams. And you never know, too, what that path or journey will lead you into activating your dreams. I've always loved media, arts, theater, what have you. And the podcast and the reset started from some really just bad times, for lack of a better word, in my life. And it's like, let me talk to other people who have overcome bad stuff and they've been able to navigate it and they can share some words of inspiration as also too like some techniques of how do you get over these humps in life. So you just
Yeah.
never know how stuff will show up for you. So she will definitely be back because this is so good. I can't wait. Open invitation to come back.
Thank
So
you.
before I ask my final question, please let our listeners and viewers know how they can contact you, reach you, or what you have going on that they can be a part of.
All right. Well, I have a podcast. It's called Unpacked Energy, like unpack a box, Unpacked Energy. And it's a podcast geared towards women where I create a safe space where we unpack, heal, and rebuild different things in our lives based on the word of God. It's a journey. Like you, I started it with a co-host of mine. And we started it with the intention because we wanted to talk about different topics, but we went to the church and the church didn't have any answers. And so I created this space with women on the show. We talk about everything. Well, I talk about everything that maybe is taboo. And we try to figure out through the word of God how we can better ourselves. I can be reached I'm always on social media. I love social media. I am really active on Instagram, but I'm on Facebook as well. You can reach me at Unpack Energy Podcast on Instagram. Send me a DM. I'm always in there. I'm always talking to somebody. And yeah, do that. And on Facebook as well, Unpacked Energy. And my email is is unpackedenergy@gmail.com. So feel free to reach out to me if you got a question. I don't care if we know each other or we don't. Reach out. You're not alone.
Cool, cool, cool. All right. And our final question for today is what is the greatest lesson you learned in your reset?
In my reset, I learned that even when we go outside of the will of God or what God has for us, He still keeps us. He still keeps us. It just takes us a little bit longer sometimes, and He might have to spank that tail, but it's okay. He still loves you even when you don't do what you're supposed to do, and don't allow anybody to make you feel like because you didn't follow His instructions, that's the end of the world. No, you repent, you move on, and you keep pushing.
Love it, love it, love it. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you.
All right, no problem. Thank you for having me.
All right, everyone. It was such a traumatic experience that I checked out mentally. Even in making a mistake, he still loves you. Let me tell you what kept me. I thought he forgot about me, but he turned it around. Thank you all so much for listening. Remember, a reset is always available to you.